So hi everybody. It's 6:01 and it looks like everybody's here. So I'm going to call this virtual meeting of the Greenwich Board of Education to order for January 5th. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the Republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Remote meetings are the great test if I have that memorized. Um, so welcome everybody. Happy New Year. This is a special meeting. We only have, as you know, we only have one agenda item, and that is to consider the proposal for the funding proposal from the Old Greenwich Board Building Committee. So to start our conversation, I have to make a motion here. So let me make a motion here because this is an action item. Just give me a second. So I would like to. I would like I would like to authorize the administration to request an interim appropriation for Old Greenwich School. Um, in the amount, shouldn't we specify the amount here, Michael?
I didn't have the full number at the time when I posted that. So if you could just not amend it, just add that number. I'll make
Gotcha.
it.
Okay. James, do you have the number at the top of your head? I don't have that screen up.
Yes, it's 6277940.
Okay.
And you do need a second.
I'll second. Sophie.
Okay. So sorry about that. So thank you, Sophie. So we have here tonight James Waters, the chair of the Old Greenwich Committee, and a whole sorts of all of the professionals have been working on this. And before we say anything, let me just say that we as a board and the Old Greenwich community, and really the whole town owe James and his team a real debt of gratitude and thanks. They worked all over the break last week, throughout the week, to getting all these numbers straight so that this project could stay on track, along with a lot of other members of the building committee. And really, the fact that we're here today is really because we're here today because really of the hard work they did and the lack of time they took off. So, on behalf of the board, we really thank them, but we really have to shout out, all they did this week to make sure that the dirt can fly on this project come spring. So with that said, I think I'm going to turn things over to Chairman Waters, who has a presentation, because we know folks are at different levels of folks have been working with this project for different amounts of time here. So James's presentation is going to walk us through the project and where we are right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. And good evening, everybody. Question, am I supposed to cast something or do people already have it? That's not necessary.
Folks at home, we have to present it, but Michael can probably do that. You want to put up the PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mike, can you handle that?
I have it as a PDF. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Do you just sorry for the silly admin, but do you want me to just, is it better if I just do it as a PowerPoint for everybody? Would you guys prefer that?
Probably.
Okay, so let's do that. Mike, give me 1 second. I will be ready. Okay. Share. Okay. Can everybody see that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, good. All right, well, good evening, everybody, and thanks for convening this special meeting. And I know we have some new board members, so welcome to all of you guys, and look forward to working with you guys as I have those who are remaining and those who've been in the past. So, look, I'll just kind of start down the road here. Look, not only has this group on the Old Greenwich Building Committee worked through the holiday. We've been at it for 3 years, and we are now at a point where the pre-construction process is complete. And look, this has been a huge lift by everybody on the building committee, including your chair. And I think we're now at a point where the Old Greenwich Building Committee was presented with the guaranteed maximum price for the project on December 23rd. We asked a bunch of questions about it. We spent, for those who haven't attended our meetings, I'm a big fan of, we do our meetings in an hour. And the December 23rd meeting was not an hour, to say the least. But it was important that we kind of really looked at this. On the phone with me tonight, just so you guys know, everybody who's here, we have Jackie Welsh, who's the vice chair of the building committee, has been with us since the start. We have Lawrence Rosati, the owner's rep for the project. We have David Stein from Silver Petroselli, the project architect, and we have Jeff Anderson from Downs, who's our construction manager. The guaranteed maximum price, also known as a GMP, was delivered. It shows that we would need $6,277,940 to be able to sign the GMP. We are tracking that there is some Board of Ed OG specific capital funding that is unused, that could be used if you guys wanted to sort of defer the need. That's the 4,571,000 there. I think one thing you're going to hear tonight is that the interim addresses some of the rising construction costs and the bidding climate since we completed the 95% CDs estimate back in November 2024. And I think for those of you who are new, I mean, this is basically the culmination of a multi-year effort that started in 2018 when the Board of Ed decided that the renovation of Old Greenwich was a high priority for renovation. The ed specs were approved in 2021. We did some revisions in 2023 and 2024 based on some of the diligence that we'd done and some of the input we were getting from our consultants and from our building committee members. We started work in October 2022. And this is not our first rodeo with the Board of Ed. We've certainly been, worked with the BET and the RTM as well, and also tried to do a lot of work in terms of getting input and meeting with stakeholders and parents and teachers and making sure we had their feedback on the project. All right, so moving to the next slide. This just on the, really an eye chart, not going to go through each line, but on the left side, you can see all this kind of steps that are complete. On the right, you can see.
James, we're still seeing slide 1 here.
Oh, are you? That's weird. Why is that? Is that,
Is this one from your laptop or is this Michael controlling it?
this should be from my laptop. Why is that not showing? Is that it now?
Yep, now we're.
Oh, you know what? Hold on one sec. I'm just gonna redo something on the share. Excuse me a sec. Sharing the wrong thing. Okay. All right. Do you see that now? Is that better? Okay. All right, so the left side you can see all the steps that are complete. The right are the steps still to do. One thing I would note is the building permit is in the final stages of completion. We're just working through some input from the fire marshal. We'll talk about that in a moment. Um, and then we're on track to start this April. So our bid documents all specified an April start. Um, I will point out that here also that when we started this process about 3 years ago, we thought that the pre-construction process was going to cost us about $2,086,000. We're about $245,000 underneath that, based on what we've done to date. Okay, so next slide. Get, are you, shoot. Why am I not showing this? Okay, there we are. Okay. All right. So here is the summary of where we are in terms of cost for the project. I'm showing this as two scenarios. The scenario one is what the Old Greenwich School Building Committee has looked at and endorsed. I did include a second scenario because based on some feedback that I was hearing that there may be some interest in a 10% owner contingency, just wanted to show what that would look like in terms of overall costs. The for purposes of explaining this, I'll just kind of walk through scenario one. We do have some early electrical materials that are going to be used that we put out to bid over a year ago. They're on order. They're going to be used to power a bunch of the things in the building, long lead items that we didn't want to sort of get in the way of our schedule. The guaranteed maximum price that we have from Downs is the 45,127,908. We have some alternates that we can get into in a minute, talk about some of the details there. They're included in the 45 number above, and the fire pump, which is also included in that number. So the total kind of construction cost there would be 45,693. We have a soft cost budget that's just around 5 million. A 7% owner contingency is just a simple kind of 7% of the 45,693 above it, and you get to total project cost 53,894. Then going down into the source of funds, this project has 47,051,000 approved to date. I will note that 1.965 million of that has been conditioned by the BET. So assuming you guys agree with an interim here, one of the things we will be asking the BET to do is to release the conditions on that 1.965 so we can access that funding. Also, the 565,495 that corresponds to the early electrical package was used out of one of the Board of Ed project codes that's related to ADA compliance. That was coordinated with Ben and team, so we could get those items ordered. And you'll see the funding gap there in red. Any questions on this slide? Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
I have a question on the contingencies, but I'm happy to wait until the presentation's over if you think that's better, James. You tell me.
Happy to talk about the contingency if you want to spend a minute on it, or there is a later slide on it, but it's up to you.
So, I mean, I guess I have two questions. Number one, it's the first time that we're seeing this. 1 second. Sorry. This is the first time we're seeing it, and I'm also, a contingency. Usually, the high end of a commercial contingency, even a municipal project, is 8%. The 7% seemed like it was right in the wheelhouse. To add 3 points to the contingency, I get concerned that a contingency can become a slush fund. Although I'm not opposed to adding funds to this, should they be necessary, I would prefer that, understanding exactly what they're going to be used for, before approving them would certainly be a better way to spend the taxpayers' money. Where did you said somebody suggested that you have this 10%. There was some suggestion that we might need it. Where did that come from, and what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, look, what the building committee has discussed previously in public, and amongst itself is the 7% number. I just wanted to show this as kind of illustrative on what a if you were to have a 10% contingency, just based on some feedback I was hearing from Mike, et cetera, that what does that look like? So that's sort of, I'm not here to advocate for one versus the other. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is a renovation of a 120-year-old building. There definitely will be unknowns that we're going to come across, and this would be specific to the owner's portion of the contingency. There is a 3% contingency for the construction manager that is baked into the $45 million number. So, there is, if you took the column on the left, the 7% and their 3%, you're at kind of an aggregate of 10% for the project. I will say I've had some people who are, I've talked to, and they're like, man, renovation, you should be looking to have more contingency than for a new construction, as an example.
But the window that's kind of accepted for commercial construction is, am I right when I'm saying that's between 6 and 8? That's the norm?
I'm probably not the right one to ask to answer that. Downs, Jeff, do you want to take a stab at that? Lawrence, you too?
I mean, I would just add Jeff Anderson with Downs. I mean, a lot of it's dictated by the project. So as James mentioned, we're talking about an extremely old building, or a portion of this building is extremely old. Now, we've done a good amount of vetting in terms of looking at existing conditions, looking above ceilings and so forth. But I think you've got to look at what percentage it ends up being based on the risk. And there is more risk in that building. But I think, as also James said, we're not advocating for 10%. We've been talking about 7, and we've done everything we can to try to make sure that this GMP is inclusive to everything that we possibly could know, and we would move forward with that.
I'm conscious here that we're in the middle of a presentation here. Karen, I see your hand there. Is this on specific to this slide?
Yeah, I did have 2 specific questions related to this slide. One is, James, you'd mentioned the 1.965 million conditioned by the BET.
Yep.
Could you clarify what those conditions are that you'd be asking them to release?
Yeah, so when that condition was created by the BET, it was basically saying that those funds would be released subject to receipt of the GMP, and ensuring that we had a 7% contingency, for the project.
Okay. And then can you clarify what's in the revised soft costs and why were they revised?
Yeah, I can. Can I wait until we get into that slide?
Absolutely. Yes, if you got
Yeah.
more details. Sorry,
Yep.
we just got a preview of this in the middle of the workday, so I haven't
Yep.
had a chance to flip through.
Yeah. No, let's definitely, we'll get to that. All right. Can I keep going? Okay. All right. So this slide shows you the guaranteed maximum price that we have from Downs. You'll see circled down there in red is the 45,127,908 from the previous slide. Jeff, do you want to describe that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so I think this is a culmination of the bid process, going through a detailed scope review. I think I lost you there for a sec, at least on my end. Going through a detailed scope review with single.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, a little technical difficulty here.
It's all right. We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay. Sorry. Detailed scope review with every single one of the contractors that were low bidder on these trade packages, so that we're comfortable in presenting to the building committee and, of course, Greenwich a recommended bidder for each category to accomplish all of the scope of work that we need to undertake at the school. Includes allowances for things that we would consider to be areas of additional risk or additional concern. It has the alternates, which again, I think we're going to get into in a little bit more detail shortly. The required supervision for us to be on site to ensure that we're managing this construction, understanding, of course, that we're in a school with a construction project and not vice versa. Insurances, bonds, fees, and everything that we would need to do, again, to comfortably present a guaranteed maximum price, GMP, to the town.
Jeff, do you want to characterize for everybody how many bids we received in aggregate? Because I think that was an important thing.
Yeah, we were well over 60 this time around for each one of these trade packages that you see, starting with the top line that has a number in it. Certainly improved significantly from the last cycle. That was a good effort, I think, by all to ensure that we had gotten to this point of the rebid, and every effort was put forward to do the best we could to get as much participation, because ultimately that results in the best pricing.
Any questions specific to this slide? Can we keep going? Okay. All right. So the next slide shows you some of the alternates that we looked at. You'll see that there are 9 different alternates that we built into the bid packages. We did that to basically, give ourselves, depending on how the bids came in, give ourselves some opportunity to do incremental things to the project or take some things out to help the kind of numbers. So just I will quickly tick through these. I will ask Lawrence and Jackie and David probably to opine if there are questions on some of the specifics. But the first alternate is a raised garden planter, which I think the building, is a kind of a nice to have, not a must have. And the building committee decided that was just, not something we needed to pursue. And so we kind of said no on that one. The second alternate is for exterior cornices. That relates to a specific section of the building. And the building committee, the thinking is that as we're doing some of the work, there may be some additional cornices that we see are like rotted out or, things like that. And this alternate would basically ensure that we do all of those. Some of this may, for example, be something that comes out of an owner contingency. Because we just don't know until we get up there and are actually seeing what it would result in a change order. But the building committee said, look, let's it's a bigger number here. Let's not definitely go with it, but we will be prepared that this could be a use of an owner contingency down the road. On the sheet flooring, I think that everybody felt, Old Greenwich School right now, when you go into the building, for those who, I think you've probably all been there by now, but the main entry is on the second floor now. One of the things we're doing with this project is the main entry will be on the first floor. And so this alternate would make sure that the first floor has all the same sheet flooring rather than, it'll be the main, main entryway and main access point for the entire building. So we thought it was important to do this so that the floors do look consistent and that it looks nice. And that's why the building committee accepted that one. The fourth alternate is some cabinetry in the pre-K windows, which are currently kindergarten rooms and will now become pre-K. Kind of a nice to have, but not a must have. Building committee said no. On alternate 5 is some shelving units for the stage. Kind of a nice to have. Building committee said, we're not going to recommend we spend additional money on that. On alternate 6 is a lintel replacement. And it's a deduct alternate. So if you said yes to it, it would decrease the project cost. Um, I think it's a relatively small amount of money. I think, people felt like we should be doing this when we replace some of these windows. Um, uh, the 7th alternate is a roof replacement on section A of the roof, which is the roof that's above the gymnasium cafeteria, and it's basically the 1990s, late 90s edition. Um, I think this one, I will let, I presume there'll be some questions on this one. Um, I'll let the architect speak on this one, but I think we purposely did build in this deduct alternate so that we would have some swing, if and depending on where the bids came in. And look, the general thinking is, will this roof need to get replaced at some point? Yes, is the answer. Is it one of the worst? Is it in the worst condition of the other roofs? No, it's not. And I think our charge per you guys in the ed specs is to make sure we really address things like ADA compliance and fire protection and security and things like that in this building, building wide HVAC. And this is a roof replacement. Wasn't necessarily core to that. I can understand why people might want us to do that. But the building committee said yes, we would accept that deduct alternate. Alternate 8 is some controls for existing unit ventilators that, just in our coordination with Dan Watson, he's expressed some interest that he have the ability to control some of those units that are going to remain in place, just as a backup to the new HVAC system. So we said yes to that one. And then alternate 9 is to do some seat walls, a second ring of seat walls around the front entry. We do have a first ring that is being done, and I think as we were thinking about it, we said, it actually might be kind of nice to take out that seat wall. It might open it up a little bit more. We'll save a little bit of money, and I think in saving some of the money, we're also then going to be pursuing a deduct change order with the site work contractor who has built in the foundations for that to his bid. So that's the kind of summary on where we're at on those alternates. Mike, I presume you'll want to have some discussion on that. Do you want me to keep going and we'll come back to this?
Yeah, why don't we keep going and finish the presentation and then we can have one discussion.
Okay.
Be faster,
Sure.
more efficient.
Okay, so Karen, per your question, here's their soft costs. You can see the total number down there in the bottom right, the 5 million. You can see it divides up into pre-construction and construction. So the pre-construction period, our soft costs are roughly 1.84 million. And the construction period, it's 3.16. You will see some of the bigger items in the construction period, things like the new playground that we are buying at a soft cost. Also, things like the abatement monitoring is baked into the site costs, the construction costs up in the design fees during the construction period. Also, our sort of ongoing relationship with Silver Petroselli and Morganti, our owner's rep, are covered in here, as well as some things like moving expenses, some of the new FF&E, which is solely focused on the new addition, and buying some of the technology, smart boards, that kind of thing. But that's sort of in aggregate the soft costs. I will highlight 2 specific items for you that are newer ones that as things evolved over the last 6 to 8 months, we wanted to make sure we were accounting for. The first is the deep inspection services. You'll see that kind of about a third of the way down. We need to have somebody who is coming and making sure that everything that we're doing is compliant with deep, as far as some of the site work that we're doing. So we have added in $150,000 allocation for that in the construction period. And then towards the bottom, you'll see a gas line in the street reinforcing the main. Based on our conversations, we've come to understand that we're going to need to do some work there. So we're accounting for that work down in those soft costs. Lawrence, anything you would that highlight that I might have missed on this?
No, James, you hit all the big items. Like you said, the others are budgets that we've been carrying. There's minor escalation associated with, some of the items, but overall you summed it up well.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, let's go into contingency funds per Paul's question. So we're just showing it again, showing it just in a couple different ways. Just wanting to also on this slide in my mind, I'm trying to show the fact that there is a construction contingency that is that 3% number, and wanting you guys to be aware of the sort of total magnitude of contingency funding that would be in this project. So under where we have come out, there would be a total of 4.5 million of contingency funds. About a little north of 3 would be for the owner, and 1.3 would be for the construction manager. And then, if someone were urging us to have a additional owner's contingency, that bottom table shows it. So the owner contingency would rise to 4.5 for a total of 5.8 in the project. Karen?
Sorry, trying to find my unmute button. I know I'm curious to see if you can answer to us sort of why you filled in both, I guess you're giving us the option for both contingencies. I know going way back in the day, Ham Ave, at that time, we had so many schools that needed to be redone. It was 5%, I think. And we kept having to go back to the BET to ask for more funding because we kept bumping into issues along the way. And I know with New Lab, I believe it was around 10%. We had funding left over that we returned. With all that's going on in the world and the fact that we know that since the original documents were drafted, as you guys noted in here, funding, costs and prices have gone up. I guess we have no way to believe that those costs might not still continue to rise. Again, who knows what's going on in the world these days. My 10-cent opinion is 10% is, having extra that we can return is better than having to continuously go back to the BET and asking for more contingency funds if we run into errors. So what was the thought process giving us both?
Honestly, the thought process is just so you can see the total magnitude under either. I mean, where the building committee has come out in discussing is that top table. But just look, I've heard there is interest in making sure we have a more robust owner contingency. So I wanted to show what does that look like dollars wise.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that the discussion before was concerned about using it as a slush fund or something, which is, as far as I know, never happened in construction projects here for the board. But I, again, couldn't say, only in the years that I've been involved, certainly, or beyond. But if that is a concern, certainly we could always revise the action item that we're voting on to include a requirement that, any and all funding, obviously it always goes back, but.
Well,
All right, well,
one thing I would just
go ahead, James.
One thing I would just say to that point is, look, we are designing this project per your ed specs, right? I mean, we're not just going out and saying, well, we'd like to do this and we're going to go do that and we're going to pay this guy to do that. Our mission, our whole reason for being is to support the ed specs. So, a use of contingency would be in support of the ed specs, right? And as we run into a problem with something or something else that's unforeseen, and there are going to be unforeseen things in this project. So, wanting to make sure that, we don't want to have to come back.
Well, I was going to say, assuming when you're opening the walls of a school this age, yes, you don't know what you're going to find in there. You're bound to find
let's finish the presentation. I see a bunch of hands up and stuff. We still got, I want to, let's see if we can get James through.
That's
and
why
then
I'm
we
just
can
saying,
take
I
questions.
think that a 10% seems to make more sense, that's all.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to keep going, Mike?
Yeah, please.
Okay. All right. So, look, now just kind of trying to show some of the differences in where we are in dollars versus where we were before. The where we were before is the blue on column on the left. Where we are now is the column on the right, in the middle, and the differences on the right. So just wanting you to see some of the differences in terms of the direct costs, which are highlighted in the box above, the soft costs, which are in the middle, and some of the kind of offsets that we were considering in the box on the bottom. I'm going to go kind of in depth on some of these. I do want to highlight that in the December 2024 CD estimate, we were assuming, you can see that 1.48 mil, 1.4 1,418,954. Those are those offsets are in that footnote below number 2, and you'll see now that the only offset that we're using is that the 565 that's using the OGS ADA compliance funding. That's the only one that we're showing. We'll go a little bit deeper. Jeff, do you want to explain the bridge on the direct costs here?
Sure, James. So, I think taking a step back, that we go and put this project out to bid, comparing it to an opinion of cost at a time, which was approximately November, December of 24. For the history that occurred, we decided to push the bidding until rebid until this past October, November into early December. Over that period of time, we've dealt with some scope changes on the project, not the least of which are some soil disposal issues for polluted soils out there, a fire pump issue, but we've also incorporated a significant amount of cost management. That would be that approximate $1,078,000 number that you see there in the upper red box. But as also has been mentioned this evening by some of you committee members, we've had a significant amount of escalation. We have what I would entitle market conditions that could be influenced by tariffs, could be influenced significantly by the location of Greenwich, candidly, and the attractiveness of a long renovation process and getting bid participation. That's what we ran into in the first cycle. Obviously improved that significantly with the second bid cycle. But we're estimating that in the 7% range, 2.4, 2.5 million. That provides you a level of bridge to how we got from a CD estimate from approximately 14 to 15 months ago to where we sit today based on actual bids. We're now beyond that opinion of cost. We are into hard numbers, commitments, and the term of the GMP, as we've talked about this evening.
Okay, and I will quickly then cover some of the changes on the soft costs. You can kind of see they total up to the 830,000. I mentioned a couple of those earlier. One of we did make some modest adjustments to what we're paying our team. Yeah, but the two bigger numbers that stand out to me are the deep inspection services, which we were not accounting for before, and now we've established a budget of 150 for that, and then for the gas line in the street down there at the bottom of the page is 70,000. Similar story. And the other stuff that we've got that we have changes in here is mostly related to, this is taking a little longer. It's been a little bit more work to get this ready to go out to start construction. Okay, highlighting here just so everybody is on the same page. This slide shows you specifically what the capital is. That is Old Greenwich School specific. I have obviously been in close touch with Ben Branyan as we've kind of been going through this process, just to make sure I understand what those dollar amounts are. You'll see that we have only accessed those funds in two specific areas. One is the early electrical, that 565 that's in the red box at the top of the page. And then in that the line below it, the sewer maintenance money that was established in fiscal 23-24, we've accessed 13,900 of that just to do some of the sewer investigatory analysis that we wanted to do to get the documents that we. But those are the only two amounts we have used of that. The rest is a balance standing at 1.7 million. I believe the GPS has encumbered that to the building committee, but we're not planning to use any of it unless you guys tell us to. So, all right. And then did I skip one? Nope. Okay. So I'm getting towards the end here, so ready for the questions soon. Another eye chart just to show you all the things that we've done and where we are now. Just a different way of looking at that slide that we looked at earlier. And then, just finally, this is kind of, where we're at on the project. The amount we've spent about 1.84 million on design to support the ed specs. This building committee has done, I think, a really good job of trying to contain and offset costs whenever we found them. We tried to find some savings somewhere else. In my interactions, and they've been numerous over 3 years with the community, I will tell you that people really want this project done. And not a day goes by that someone says, when are you going to start soon? Please start soon. So, and look, I felt like it was important as we got started to really make sure, we weren't just, of course, our job is to do your ed specs, Board of Ed specs for the school. But I wanted to make sure that we were getting real-time feedback from people on the ground, people who use this building on a daily basis. And I can assure you we've done that, and we'll continue to do that. It's super important. I know from the members of our building committee who are, Old Greenwich School community members, but others that, that communication throughout this project, and really we're only about halfway through if we, have 3 years of construction to go. All approvals are complete. The building permit is the one thing that is I would say near complete. I'm told regularly that a conditional letter is sitting in the building department waiting for us to finalize the discussion with the fire marshal. I'm feel pretty good that we're close. I know we have that funding baked in on the recent ask from the fire marshal to add a fire pump. We had baked that into the numbers that we just discussed. And then we're ready to start in April. So, I think we would certainly welcome your action on this tonight. I know that we are planning to go and discuss this with the BET next week. And that, I've been in conversations with the moderator of the RTM to convene a special meeting in the RTM at the beginning of February. Assuming we accomplish those steps, I think, we're prepared then to finalize our GMP contract with Downs and to get started in April. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, James. Okay, so there's lots of folks here able to answer any questions. I know I saw some hands up earlier. And Paul, looks like you're the first hand up this time around, so go ahead.
So I'll probably ask some dumb questions here, but when we're voting on this 6277940, what is that the 10 or is that the 7%, or does that not get calculated until it's needed? Is there an option 1 and an option 2?
So it's no such thing as dumb questions. So the motion on the table is the 7% contingency.
Okay, so then let me just reiterate. The gentleman from Downs, Ms. Hirsch was talking about these potential things going on, including tariffs and stuff like that. But the gentleman made it clear that that's baked into the 7%. Not only the tariffs, the other history. I'm pretty sure that there's been a ton of walls and ceilings opened up here, and that this building committee has done a phenomenal job with their partners on actually drilling down and doing the due diligence necessary. Walls have been opened, the gentleman said he even took into consideration the location of Greenwich. And I believe the building committee, as well as the gentleman, their request was 7%. They felt they needed 7% after being on that committee and looking at this. So I just wanted to make sure I reiterated that.
Jeff, do you want to add to that?
I don't think so. I think it's important to note that that we have bid the project based on a set of plans, again, based on your initial ed specs, a schedule. So once we are released to do so, we're issuing contracts, and everything that the contractors could possibly know as it relates to costs are baked into their contract. So we should be comfortable as it relates to that, in terms of any outside, influencing issues, unless there's something drastic that occurs from the government in the next couple months. But I think in summary, Mr. Cappielli, you summarized what I had said earlier.
Mr. Cheney, please go ahead.
I feel like I'm jumping the line here. I don't know if there were people ahead of me, but I just wanted to say that while I do understand that 7% sounds like it's great, I do feel like 10% might be better. From what Karen was saying, I was going to say it was 5% at Ham Ave, and they kept having to go back for interims. The 10% at New Leb seemed to have worked well for both the BET and the building committee. We're going into the roof, the floors, and the walls, and it's a 100-year-old building. And I feel like, and if we could just explain to everyone here, since some of us are new, what happens to the money that's left over on a contingency?
So my understanding, what happens with the money that's left over will get returned to the town.
Ms. Coben?
I'm going to not talk about the contingency for a second. I was wanting to talk about alternative 2 and alternative 7. With alternative 2, I guess this kind of does relate to the contingency. I'm a little concerned because we're talking about such an old building and we're doing, that things could get damaged and this exterior cornice and the fascia and the soffit repair and everything like that. If we deduct that $164,500 now, I guess I want to understand why we're comfortable. I assume that we're not going to be happy if we do a huge renovation project and then there's a bunch of exterior work that looks really like it needs to be done, right? I don't think the community is going to be happy of like, well, that cornice is falling apart and the soffit is hanging down. So I guess I'm a little confused why we aren't just leaving that money in there, because it seems likely that could be necessary. So I don't know if someone can speak to that. And then secondarily and kind of relatedly, the roof, I don't know that we need to talk about this, make any sort of decision on this tonight, but once you have an entire crew assembled to do a massive renovation on an old building, and we know that the roof is going to need to be replaced, why are we going to push it off? My understanding is that the roof is somewhere in the queue in the next, say, 5 years. And so my concern is we finish this renovation project and then 6 months later, we're like, and now we're doing the roof. And honestly, I feel badly for the community that it would be, hey, we're tacking on, now there's a new project that we didn't include with this larger project. And also, I imagine there's some efficiency with doing a project. That may not be true, because I think a lot of the roofing projects, we try to get them done in the summer. So maybe it's fine. And so I'm kind of, with both of these questions, I would like to hear from the experts of why it would be okay not to do them now.
So on that one, can I ask David, Jackie, Lawrence, you guys, David, you want to kick it off on the thinking behind alternate 2 and alternate 7?
Yeah, happy to do so. Good evening, everyone. David Stein with Silver Petroselli and Associates. So alternate 2 related to the cornice. Just based initially on the ed specifications, that wasn't specifically noted as a maintenance or repair item during the due diligence and design of the project. That's when it was noted there was some areas that potentially could use repair and replacement. Because we're not doing a full replacement of some of those adjacent areas, we decided to at least build in for our costing purposes the replacement or repair essentially of the cornice that only wraps around the original part of the building. It's approximately 350 linear feet. So you see what that works out in terms of just general cost per square foot. So from the beginning, this was not part of the original scope or anticipation to do that upper area. If we were adding additions to that, we'd be touching it. But basically, our work, even our modest addition that we're doing in the back, doesn't interface with that. So this is really a standalone piece. And with that, we have not seen drastic signs of leaking, in classrooms, above windows, or other signs of visual signs of distress. So therefore, we felt comfortable recommending this as an alternate, seeing what the price may be. Now, when you enter into an effort just like this, as you see at $160,000+ worth of work and scaffolding that'd be required around the perimeter of the building while we're doing other work, that could open up some other conditions that we may not be able to foresee. And that also then ties into the owner contingency that you're all talking about, and that just tax that. So, at the moment, there are some superficial items that could be repaired in the future. Right now, as we presented to the building committee, there's no apparent signs of major distress. If that was the case, then from a structural perspective, people would have raised their hands. We just don't see that at the moment. And therefore, it just opens up another risk profile of the project that wasn't really based on accessibility, ADA improvements, or HVAC. That was part of the ed spec. So that's sort of the genesis behind that. Related to the roofing piece of it, very similar. The project never contemplated a full roof replacement. The roofs that we are touching, which are adjacent to those roofs, we have some flat areas that are intersected between these asphalt shingled pitch roofs. Those areas are absolutely being replaced in kind. It's a full replacement down to its substrate. We have new mechanical units that are sitting on this. So these shingled roof areas, again, are not showing necessarily signs of disrepair. They will be reaching their end of their predicted life, but why remove roofing items if you don't necessarily need to? Now, your point of, is it potentially more efficient to do it in succession with other work? Yes and no. There's a lot of other activities that are trying to happen all at once during the summer, so it's fairly compressed. Two, a roofing replacement project is reimbursed by the state and does not require the same action item as a large alteration project like this does. So you can essentially apply every month throughout the year. You do not need to go for state bonding for that. These are priority type projects that can basically just be applied, and that work can be started at the beginning of a calendar year and be ready for a roof replacement in the future. And sometimes it'd be less expensive because it's just a roofing contractor coming in and doing their own work, and they're not essentially coexisting or working around a lot of other construction activity. I'll defer to my colleagues on the construction side to talk about that, but I think you could visualize if there's all this other activity, a roof replacement, they could come to this in a fairly short order. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Jackie or Lawrence, just real quick, anything you guys would add to David?
Not to what David said, the cornices have a chance to snowball and consume potentially the owner's contingency. And as far as the shingle roof, there's no work on it. As David said, all your mechanical equipment is on the adjacent flat roof. So it's a pretty straightforward repair or replacement in the future, whether it's done through the project or, as Dave mentioned, in the future.
And I would agree that David did explain this very well, and I would prefer to have the roof replaced without the construction manager's markup. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Oh, I think Karen Kraus, I think you're up.
Thanks, Mike. James had talked about, some unused BOE capital funding that could reduce the need. I think in the version I saw earlier in the week, it was about 1.7 million. Could you go into some detail on when that was approved, what that was approved for? I think I realize that this is a little bit left pocket, right pocket, but from a governance and transparency standpoint, and to Paul's earlier expressed concern about, slush funds, I don't love the idea of repurposing money that was approved for something else.
Absolutely. Do you want me to share that screen again, just so, because I can
Yeah.
better
So
to
that
talk
might be
about.
helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go with this one. Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
No. Oh, shoot.
There we go. Now it is. It just had a leg.
Okay. All right. So you can see what we're talking about here are 7 different line items. This is funding that was included in the town budget. Let me zoom in a little bit too. And I put what fiscal year the monies were established. And look, we were not to be clear, we were not involved in the creation of these. These kind of came about through the regular capital process. And this column right here, where the budget is kind of the number that was established. The ones that were on the ADA compliance and the sewer items, those were established while the building committee was beginning its work. They were established at the same time that we were asking for construction funding, and the construction funding was not provided at the time, but these funds were established. That million 3,000 and the 500,000 for the sewer. They not, to my knowledge, not based on any detail or data. They just were sort of saying, we support ADA compliance and we support OGS sewer. And then the exterior concrete masonry, I'm not really. I think that was just a normal, ordinary capital item. And so, that's my knowledge. I don't know if Ben Branion would add anything else on that.
I would just say that it's been routine and customary that we would use existing project funds for the project. If the Board of Ed and the BET want to pivot away from that strategy and now go from a gross rather than a net, we certainly can do that. But this is routine of how you would use existing projects that have already been earmarked for OG, and it would just offset the ask.
I appreciate the clarification. And Sophie and Ben, maybe this is something we could take up in finance committee at some point, because as I'm looking at some of these dates that are a while ago, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but doesn't the town borrow the money and start paying interest on it? I'm just surprised this wasn't clawed back sooner. This feels like a long time to have borrowings outstanding and not spent. So maybe we can, I don't want to derail this conversation, but I think that's maybe something to talk about in the finance committee.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Great.
Capiel.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was still up. I was going to actually jump in and support Ms. Coven as it related to her, advocating for some of these alternates, and I had an additional alternate. But after hearing David speak, and realizing how, something else gets put into this mix, it really upsets the apple cart. And again, that this has been so well thought out with this committee, and I'm just grateful for them and their recommendations. So thank you, but I'm good.
Okay, other questions? Okay. So seeing none, so there's a motion on the table. I know there was talk about the contingency. I know that's something that speaking as a member of the committee, the building committee, is something we've talked a lot about. There is a lot of confidence right now that the recommended number that's been sent to us as a board is appropriate. I would caution against changing that and adding contingency. Remember, there's also that 1.3. There's two sets of contingencies out there between the construction and the owner's contingency. So right now, the for what it's worth, my thought would be to move forward with the number as presented, and recommended by the building committee. Okay. Without seeing any other comments, I will call the question. So all those in
Mr.
favor
Chair,
of
just
the
Dr.
motion.
Mercanti Anthony, just remember that since it's fully virtual, you have to do a roll call vote.
Thank you, sir. Okay. I did forget that. So because we're virtual, we must do a roll call vote. So I will call us one at a time, beginning with me. MJ Mercanti Anthony is aye. You're just in the order I'm on the screen here. Karen Kraus.
Will you restate the motion that you were about to do that? I just think it's going to be helpful for the public and me.
Yes. So this is the authorized. Thank you. So this is the authorized the administration to request an interim appropriation for Old Greenwich School in the amount of $6,277,940.
Next is me. Aye.
Wait, second, right? We have to second it?
Oh,
Well, it was seconded. I'm
it
restating.
was seconded
Oh.
by Sophie. That was just a restatement.
Yeah. And it's worth clarifying the 6 million, but remember the 1.7 is allocated. So we're actually adding 4.5 million and changed in additional funding. Okay, so I lost my screen here. Okay, so let's try this again. So MJ Mercanti Anthony, aye. Paul Capiello,
Aye.
Sophie Coleman,
Aye.
Bob Cheney,
Aye.
Karen Hirsch,
Yes.
Wendy Walsh,
Aye.
Veronica and Company.
Aye. Thank you. Sorry.
All right. Did I get everybody? Oh, yep, I think I did. Okay, motion passes 8-0. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, David, Jeff, Jackie, James, Lawrence. Thank you all for joining us. Ryan, I see you on there. Thanks all for joining us. I appreciate it. This meeting, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Seconded.
All right. Bye,
I
everybody.
did
Happy
a
New
quick
Year.
roll.
Thank you.
All in favor, everybody, the roll call vote, and everybody voted yes, right?
Yes.
Yay. Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.
You too. Bye.
Thank you, guys.